What makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to the Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagilia de Ravin. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Female Founders. Today, I will be having a conversation with Pauline Rogers. She is the co-founder and executive director of the RECH Foundation, a leader in reentry services and justice reform. Pauline's dedication to helping others is inspiring, and I cannot wait for you to hear her story. Good morning, Pauline, and thank you so much for being here with us today. I am really excited to learn more about the RECH Foundation and also all the great work you are doing out there to help others. But can you share a little bit about your life and how it inspired you to help others?
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Well, it actually comes from my childhood. I'm the oldest of 11 siblings, and my grandmother, who was primarily raised, I came from a two-parent family. And my grandmother, it was instilled in me from my grandmother from childhood. And from childhood, I had a traumatic experience. That traumatic experience led to another traumatic experience, is why I do the work that I do.
But what made you start the RECH Foundation?
The traumatic experience from childhood, I experienced the death of my father by the hands of my mother when I was a little girl. I got stuck in that place of trauma. I watched my father be killed by self-defense, but as a child, you don't know to decipher self-defense. You just witness what you see. And from that experience, 11 siblings, my grandmother always said that it's my duty and responsibility to help with the younger siblings. So I tried to figure out what was my role? What did that look like as a child? So I was a church girl. I was raised in the church back in the 60s. That was little economic development and little to do. And so I figured, well, I can contribute. If you go to a church, there was always food, repast. So I would line up my siblings and we visited every funeral. Didn't matter the denomination. And I took my siblings to every funeral. Didn't matter the culture, the denomination, whatever, because there was food at the repast. And in the 60s, you could easily leave a repast with the whole casserole, cake, whatever, without a prefix plate. And so that was deceptive, but that was my way of helping. Well, that didn't help our family very much. So my brother started getting his hair cut with me using scissors and a comb and leaving patches in his head. And he didn't like that. I didn't either, but I did my best. So I went to a local store, Sears and Roebuck, and stole some clippers. Well, and I got caught for it. And the police was called. I was arrested by the police officer. He put me in the car. He gave me a pep talk in a bag. I didn't know that he had paid for what I had purchased. What I had stolen. He gave me a pep talk all the way home, and he gave me $7. That was a lot of money back in the 70s. In the 60s.
Yes.
But I didn't learn a lesson. I continued that shoplifting spree. I didn't learn that valuable lesson. So they had a law in Mississippi, which has been since modified. And that law was 3 strikes and you're out. You go to what was called the big house, meaning prison. So I had stole again and went, and it was my 3rd time. So they sent me to prison. And when I went to prison, I was in culture shock that there was this big warehouse, what I call the big bedroom, this one big bedroom filled with all of these diverse people. And I didn't know that anything existed like that in this country. But it was there laying on those metal steel beds that I would hear women talk about having made parole but could not leave because they did not have a verifiable address. And it didn't make sense to me. How do you make parole and you still be locked up? That sounded like an oxymoron to me. And I was like, well, I can fix that. If you just need somewhere to go, I can fix that. So I just started making my plan in my mind. All we have is ideas. All children have growing up is ideas. When you hear a child say they want to be a fireman, a police officer, a professional ball player, and a millionaire, they are serious when they say they want to be all these things. And us adults come along and kill their dreams. So I went back to what I knew as a child. I was like, well, I can put this idea of what I want to do to fix this problem, to let people get out of prison. I can give them an address. So I started writing down the vision of the work that I now do when I was in prison. And of course, it didn't start out with the official home. It started out with having an extra space in the space where I was living. And it has progressed since then to an official home. So that's how I got into doing the work that I do.
Wow, this is amazing, Pauline. So you took one mistake. Well, it's not actually, it is a mistake, but at the same time, you are just trying to help your siblings survive.
Yes.
Something even bigger than that.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. That's how it started. Because my grandmother never allowed us, or my mother never allowed us to waddle in the problems that were around us. The hometown that I grew up in, everybody's big goal and dream was just to get a piece of land and get a trailer. Sure. My grandmother always told us to dream big. And she was the first person, even in the 70s, to not have a trailer. She built a wood frame home, and that wood frame home went from a wood frame to she built the first brick home in the hometown where I grew up in. And to this day, there are still very few.
So she's also was dreaming big, and she passed that on.
Yes.
But the foundation itself, the RECH Foundation, it's like you explaining it, it seems like when people in payroll, they're getting out of reentry, they're getting back to the community. That's where RECH Foundation helped them. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But can you kind of give us more information about that?
Well, we have an application process. We send in applications to the case managers, or we will mail them directly to the person that's interested in coming. We vet those applications. Now, we don't just take in everybody that comes because we're not equipped to handle all of the issues that every incarcerated person has or will encounter. Example, like if they have a disability or a physical impairment, we're not equipped to be an assisted living facility. Or if they are on psychotropic medications that require monitoring by a medical professional or a case manager professional, we don't have the staffing to do that. But there are hospitals and institutions that we refer those to. So we go through that application process. If they are approved, we pick them up from the gate. That's the first step. We pick them up from the gate because we need to be that first contact. And from that first movement, we start there from the gate to walking them through the steps of reentry from the gate. And they can stay from, I say 90 days to when they feel like they are ready to be on their own. And when they leave us, they are leaving with either a job or a means of income. Means of income, meaning we help them get on government assistance if they are eligible and required and meet the requirements for eligibility for that. So they leave us where they're not going into homelessness. They're going into a stable living and have a stable income that they can depend on and rely on every month or every week, however the money is coming in.
But do you guys also have a program to keep them out of trouble?
The program that we have to keep them out of trouble is a peer-to-peer mentoring and support. Because people have to keep themselves out of incarceration. We cannot guarantee that they won't go out of incarceration. But what we do guarantee is the support that you need to keep you stable. Like even when they transition out from us, We have a young lady now that transitioned out, that did all of the requirements. But when she moved to the town that she moved to, which was several hours away, she felt like she was spiraling down. And before she got into a place to pivot in the wrong direction, in the wrong direction, she called and asked, could she come back? And I was,
Really?
yes, and we took her back, and she's still in the home now. And so it's that kind of peer support that we allow women the opportunity to succeed. And we are the only provider in the state of Mississippi that will take women on the sex registry to help them, because there are a lot of restrictions around the sex registry. And we are the only one in the state that will take women on the registry, because when they leave, they are in homelessness. There's so many restrictions on where they can live, how many feet they can be from a school or whatever. And so we do that. And then we give them a spiritual, I'm a church girl. Well, I don't say I'm a God-fearing girl. And that is my foundation and my base. And so that component is a big one in the work that we do, to make sure that they have the spiritual support that they need, whatever that looks like. We don't shove a particular religion down anybody's throat, but we make sure that they are having a positive, uplifting meditation experience or a biblical foundation with a tangible church. So we do all aspects of their reentry.
What did you mean by the six? You mentioned something about six districts, six something that you are the guys.
SCX registry. People that have either been convicted of rape, molesting a child, or fondling of a child, or whatever. We are the only people, whatever that sex violation is, we are the only person in the state that will take people that were on, whether it was an incest situation. We're the only people that will take people that have been convicted of those type of crimes.
But is that because you are not close to a school, or because where they are going to live is not anywhere near?
Exactly. We were very intentional about the property that we have, that we were looking for, and the Lord just landed in our laps.
Yeah, that's another great thing, because the RECH campus is such a big part of your work, right? So now you have 27 acres of space.
Yes. Undeveloped space, but we have the potential to develop what we need and to be contained to that area.
Yeah, but that's big. That's a lot of land.
It's a lot of land. Yes, a lot of land.
But do you have any plan to build bigger houses or something like that to have more?
We have plans to build houses there and to make the property self-sufficient, that we are a resource to the public, where we will create jobs, restaurants, cleaners, hair salon. We want to create a whole community that is self-sustained, child care, where the place is self-contained, self-sustained, that we will also be a garden where we will can sell to the public, and then that money will go back into the property and staff the people that come out of prison that do not have jobs, that they can find jobs at the premises where they live, and transportation won't be a problem, because they can walk within the confines of where they live to where they are also employed at. So that is our big picture.
Yes. Not only right now you are giving them housing, job training, mental support, but also you are about to opening jobs for them, place for them to pretty much call home.
Exactly. That is that's our intention. The intention is that these women want to come home. If they were drug abuser, they were in the streets. And so we don't do programming that will allow people to come in and do training and do classes, because when they come in from home, whether that's been a long, stressful day, looking for employment, or whether it's been a long, stressful day on the job, we don't want them to come home and there's 2 or 3 cars here for another study program. We want them to want to come home. We want them to want to stay off the street. So we don't allow programs to be taught in the home where people are coming doing another Bible study or another training. We don't even do it on the premises. We take them away from the premises if we want to do a training. Oh. We do have house meetings, deal with issues that are happening within the house, maybe with residents, but we do not do trainings there. We want them to know you're at home. This is home. We do not have signs up with a bunch of rules and do's and don'ts. We want them to know you are at home and it's operated just like home.
You are welcome home.
You are welcome home.
But how many can you take at one time?
Well, in the current house, we can only take 8. We used to have it where it was 14, double bed. That's too much. We want to get to the place where we actually have one person per room in a room. But right now there are 2 to a room.
But when you talk, is the foundation is also supporting both men and women, or is it just women only?
We house women, but we support both men and women. What I mean by supporting both men and women, we give the same type of supportive services that we give the women, we give to the men. We help the men get their Social Security card. We help them get their birth certificate. We help them get their state ID, or we help them with their ID if they are on the registry. We help them with job searching. We do provide some limited transportation. If we get monies or specific monies that's earmarked toward a specific program, we use those guys first. We support them with the men with clothing. If they have to go to certain jobs interview and they don't have that clothing, we make sure that we provide them that. So it's those type of supportive services. If they need a mentor brother, we try to meaningfully match them with what we think is the best person for them. So we do that type of support for the men.
But you don't give them housing, so they don't get to stay in the home where other women are staying at.
Right, but we have another house that we have had to in emergency situation, like during COVID. There was one guy that had gotten out. He was 75. He was living with his family. He contracted COVID. His family put him out. Well, he had to be isolated.
Aww.
And when he got tested negative for COVID, they wouldn't allow him to come back. Mm-hmm. People were afraid of COVID, and if you had COVID, you got looked upon as the carrier of COVID, if you will. And so we had to emergently house him in a different house apart from the women. But we were thankful that the house was up, running, and was equipped that we could take him. And we did. And of course, his family eventually, after a long period of time, they did eventually, because we all learned more about COVID. They allowed him to come back. But early on, when we started this work with the sex register, we had what do you call them, Winnebagers, these houses on wheels that was donated to us. We used to take that, and because we saw so many people on the street. And we're like, well, why are you here? And we found out that they were on the registry. And we would take that trailer and we would move it to different locations and allow them to live there. Of course, we wouldn't leave the key because we didn't want them to drive off with it. And when the police or some a citizen would come and say, you can't park it, we would just take it and move it somewhere. But we never told anybody what we were doing because we didn't have a model on what we should be doing or how. So we just did the best we could with what we had at the time. And of course, that vehicle is no longer running. We still have it, and people have offered us to buy it, but we don't want to sell it because it has so much sentimental value that someday we hope to get it restored and put it in a museum or something like that to tell the story of what we were doing with it.
But I think that you have so much land available. That's a place I feel like that can be any story, like a museum, even if it's a small place, like I don't know, like a park, people can come in and kind of learn about how the RECH Foundation all started and
Yeah,
why it was starting in the first place. It's
yeah,
kind of a way for the next generation to kind of learn a little bit about you too.
yeah.
Why did you start this in the first place?
Well, the lady that hired me, I married a formerly incarcerated guy. He got locked up when he was 14 and he got out when he was 31. And we worked together at the prison. We were not dating, he was married. And I had gotten out. And you had developed a friendship. And when he got out of Washington for 2 years, we got married 2 years after he had gotten out. We've been married 33 years,
Wow.
34 years this year. But we took our knowledge collectively that we had learned from the people that impacted our life. And this one lady that impacted his life and mine, I worked for her. We took care of that lady for 2 years. We named one of the homes in her honor, first home in her honor. And we also had the opportunity to care for her in her latter days for 2 years in the home that we named in her honor. Now, her children were well able financially and otherwise take care of her. But we had developed that relationship, so we had an opportunity to pay forward what was paid forward, what was given to us.
So,
And we want that to ride on in the work that we do and to show others that what we do in life is not about things, but it's about people.
people, yes. Then you also have work on many issues like food, poultry, and farms, and also helping children.
Right.
So, what keeps you going? How do you decide what to work on next?
I don't decide it. It's people decide it. And people are what matter every day. And when we wake up in any given day, we don't, in our families, in our personal lives, we don't know what we will encounter, whether it's with a husband, a parent, a sibling. And so that's what keeps me going. And knowing the people, what I lived when I was incarcerated, the people that I left behind are human beings. And so they're not human doings, they are human beings. And everything that we have been called and challenged to do in life is how do we uplift and make life better for others? If we get stuck on what pair of shoes, I mean, how many pair of shoes or what purse do we need to make us be important? I mean, what kind of house do we need that will make you feel like you've arrived? Because when you look at all the fires that have happened in California, not one home is as important as the lives that were saved in California. Not one wardrobe, not one closet of clothes or whatever was in there is more important than people. And it's how do we send portions to whom nothing is prepared is what we should be doing in our life. And that's what keeps me going is what am I doing that will leave a legacy for somebody else to live life and make life better. And even in public office, nobody should be running for public office unless you are trying to see what you can do for the poor to bring them out of poverty. And that's the only reason we should be doing anything. But if we are hell bent on how do we make the rich richer and the wealthy wealthier, we are on the wrong side of the fence. And that's what keeps me going. I want to send portion to whom nothing is prepared. Christ died for the ungodly. And ungodly consists of incarcerated, formerly incarcerated, people on the street, homelessness, everything that is in the ungodly, that's who Christ died for. And that is what we're supposed to live our lives for. And that's what keeps me going.
But how do you get funding for the RECH Foundation to keep it going?
Individuals, I'm learning about the grant world, and we are tapping into the world of grants on how do we get funding for that. But myself and my husband, we were the first investors. My mother, his mother were the first investors. The Lord challenged me that if you believe in what you're doing, then you be the first investor. And so that's what we've done and continue to do.
And another question I want to ask you, from the beginning, you mentioned that your father was killed, and also if I remember well, your father also killed your mother. Did your father end up in prison for that?
My mother did not. Mississippi still does not have a self-defense law in this state, but my mother was given self-defense based on historical happenings with my father being abusive, which we never saw physical abuse. I always heard loud talking, but it was muffled. You couldn't make out what was being said. So she got off on self-defense.
But your mom is still with you today?
My mother passed away in 2016. Actually, when we got the official home, my mother passed. She never had opportunity to actually step foot on the property. She had done all the planning. That was a devastating time. A very devastating time for me in my life. In fact, some of our volunteers actually pulled me out of that place of what I don't know what depression is, but I think that's the closest to maybe knowing what depression was in 2016 at the loss of my mother.
But you said that you care for your siblings, and pretty much that's what get you in trouble with the law. So is all of your siblings still with you? Because I know it was many of you, and you're the oldest.
I actually had a brother to get killed in prison. He went to prison. He was a man's man, and he was in a car wreck. And he worked at one of the big shipping industries here in the state, and a top job, welder, all of that, and was in a head-on collision where part of the car went through. He had to have a total hip replacement, was in this contraption. And before opioid was declared a crisis in this country, he was put on opioid, became addicted, could not get a job. They told him there was no such thing as temporary disability. And so somebody planted a seed after seeing the type of medicine he was on. Man, you can get this from the street. And he sold his own medication to an undercover agent and was sentenced as a drug dealer to prison with mandatory time. And 7 days before his coming home, he was killed in prison. Yes. And that was another devastating thing. And of course, I did not allow them to bury him on prison. He was married, but his wife and my mother yielded the right to my decision. They flowed with that. And so we took his body and donated it, all of his organs, to Mora, and his skin to the burn center, because he was deserving of that type of humanity, if you will, to give life to somebody else. So I know a lot of parts of this work that I don't care to know, but I know it based on the experience. But my other siblings are doing well. I have a brother. They come, they help with the work. We know where all of the children that have an incarcerated parents are in the 82 counties in Mississippi. And every year in December, our organization does the largest Christmas event on behalf of the incarcerated parent. And so one of my sisters came down from Alabama and helped with that event. And we had a brother that came after that to help us get things back in order. So they help us in the work, and we are thankful for that.
You've been through a lot, Pauline, but for whatever reason, you keep on helping others. Why?
Could you repeat that question?
You've been through a lot of things in life. A lot happened to you. And some people can't take them all and just turn them to something else in life. But you take them all, you turn them into something more powerful than that, helping other people. But why? Why do you choose that path instead?
I think it's because of my upbringing, how I was raised. I was raised in the church, and that's what the church did. You help people. And all of my life, I always heard that if you go somewhere, if you need help, always find a church. The people in those places are always there to help. And I think it's my upbringing and how I was raised, that makes me the way that I am.
You won many awards for your work, including the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. How do these awards make you feel and what they mean for you in the future of your work?
I don't get caught up in the awards. I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for the recognition. And getting those awards is simple to me. It's a person saying thank you. It's just another way that they say thank you. I'm appreciative for that. But I never get stuck in that because I still see too much of the blight. I see too many of my people walking streets. I see too many of my people stuffing their roofs with buckets and quilts trying to keep the water out. So I'm never content because I still see too many more problems than I see with solutions in my community and people that look like us. Or I watch television and I see third world countries where they don't have running water, or they're digging during disasters or tsunamis or earthquakes, or you see Haiti. So I never get satisfied and content. I'm thankful for the award. And when the people send them and they give them, I say thank you because I'm thankful. But I don't flaunt it because I never feel like I've arrived to anything other than they said thank you another time, or they said thank you this time, or they flipped the coin and they said thank you this way. Because until I can see more of our people uplifted, I can't get content. And there's not a pair of shoes, there's not a purse, there's not an outfit, there's not a home that makes me feel that way unless the people I'm serving can wear the shoes, live in the home, wear the clothes. That's what makes me satisfied. If I can clothe one that had no clothes, put shoes on the feet who had no shoes, or house one that had no home, that's what makes me content. And I just simply take those awards and say thank you. Oh, I'm appreciative. But how can you
People
help me?
call you.
Huh?
People call you the Justice General because of
Yeah,
your hard work.
they do. This lady kept saying that, and I was like, why does she keep saying it? Why does she? And I finally said, you know what? Own it. I will own it. And if people see me as that, then fine. This general needs to bring justice to another and to another. That if I'm gonna be called that, then do it. Oh, solutionist, then I need to be solving problems. And so I
Yes.
try to live up to the names that have been bestowed with everyone that I encounter, because everyone is significant in that. Every person was born for God's purpose and his glory. And if I encounter them, there is a role. I'm an ingredient in the role of that person's well-being. So that's what I see that as.
What advice would you give to women who are facing tough times but want to follow their dreams?
Follow your dream. That even in tough times, dreams do come true. I posted this morning about keeping the dream alive, dream on dreamer. Because even when we are tired and we go to sleep on our dreams, it doesn't mean that they won't come to pass. That when we
Yeah.
wake up, and I remember the story of Adam when he woke up, a dream that he didn't even know needed to be fulfilled was in Eve, and when he woke up, there she was. And so I just believe that people just need to keep dreaming, even when you go to sleep and you see nothing. Sleep on, get the rest, but wake up. The dream may manifest when you open your eyes the next time. So it's that serious for me. Um, and to be a part and to be play whatever role I can in another person's dream. Yeah.
How can people donate and reach out to you?
On our website, we have a donors page. They can reach out there. Our website is www.rechfoundationms.org. or they can call us at 601-918-2970 or email us at rechfoundation.org at
Thank you so much.
gmail.com.
At
rechfoundation
gmail.com.
at gmail.com. Yeah.
But thank you so much, Pauline, for giving me that chance to have this conversation with you, to get to know more about your background and the things you went through in life. And you didn't go through them for yourself. You go through them for others, for your
Yeah.
family, for strangers you never met. It's amazing. It's empowering. And to see women stand up like that. And I thank you for all you do. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it, because the work that you do is what spread the work and the extensions of what we on the ground do in our perspective areas. So thank you.
Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.